Night on the Galactic Railroad is one of the most devastating anime films ever made, an experience that leaves a mark. That's why so many people remember its ending with discomfort, especially those who watched it as children. Giovanni is a poor boy with a sick mother. He has to work after school, and the money he earns goes toward buying her medicine. On top of that, his father, missing and likely dead, is the subject of jokes in town. Another kitten mocks Giovanni for it, though he still has one true friend, Campanella. One day, Giovanni falls asleep while walking. When he wakes up, a mysterious train passes by. He climbs aboard and finds Campanella inside. The journey is incredible, but deeply melancholic. The train can travel through time and space, passing through places at the exact moment tragedies are unfolding. Strange, sorrowful passengers get on and off, and repeatedly it's suggested that Giovanni doesn't belong there. At one point, 3 children board the train and seem to refer to the Titanic disaster as they speak. We even get a scene of the ship sinking. Afterward, the children leave the train and walk toward a cross along with other figures. By this point, something feels terribly wrong. The revelation hits suddenly. This wasn't an ordinary train. It belonged to those departing the world. Campanella had drowned, and everything they experienced on the train was his passage toward death. Giovanni, alive and unaware of the tragedy unfolding in reality, believed he was simply reunited with his best friend. As the final destination approaches, Campanella must step off. That's when Giovanni finally understands, too late, that their entire journey was his friend's last farewell, and that he was never meant to be part of that train. Remember Me presented a romantic story wrapped in drama and painful moments, but nothing compares to the ending that hits when you least expect it. Everything begins with a tragedy. In 1991, a girl named Allie witnesses her mother being murdered in a subway station. Years later, as a university student, she lives with her father, a New York City police detective. Despite the trauma, she tries to move forward. At the same time, we meet Tyler Hawkins, a young man scarred by his brother Michael's suicide. His relationship with his father is strained, a wealthy, emotionally distant man who practically abandoned the family. Tyler is rebellious and angry, but deeply protective of his little sister Caroline, a talented girl also ignored by their father. After a street fight, Tyler is arrested by Allie's father. Later, Tyler's friend Aiden suggests he approach Allie as revenge. Tyler agrees without thinking much about it, but what begins as a petty plan turns into a real relationship. Both of them, marked by loss and grief, start to heal together. Tyler also begins reconnecting with his family. He tries to fix his relationship with his father and protects Caroline, who suffers bullying and feels alone. Everything seems to take a positive turn. Tyler and Allie stay together, his anger softens, and his family life slowly improves. And then comes the twist. In one scene, Tyler is alone in an office, looking out the window. It's quiet, almost peaceful. Suddenly, the camera cuts away and we see a teacher writing the date on the chalkboard, Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. That's when everything clicks. Tyler isn't in any ordinary building. He's in an office on the 106th floor of the World Trade Center. Without showing the tragedy directly, the viewer understands. Tyler dies in the 9/11 attacks. Everything that seemed to be healing is cut short in an instant. The twist turns what looked like a simple romantic drama into a personal tragedy intertwined with a national one. The film makes it clear that Tyler doesn't die because of his choices. He dies simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Cruel and unfair. The movie uses a real tragedy to remind us that life gives no warnings before it breaks you, and no one is safe from death. Thomas the Tank Engine is remembered as a cartoon for very young children recommended from age 3 and up, but over time it has taken on a strange afterlife as something far more unsettling. It began as an innocent show with model trains seemingly brought to life through human-like faces, a choice that created an uncanny effect for viewers. Although the intention was always educational and musical, the use of realistic elements in a children's setting, even in appearance, many have since described as disturbing. The internet only amplified this perception with creepypastas, distorted images, and bizarre fan theories pushing the idea that there was something darker lurking behind the franchise. Among all the episodes, one in particular has been singled out as the clearest example of this sinister undertone, Come Out Henry. The story centers on Henry, who refuses to follow the orders of the Fat Controller. That small act of disobedience leads to a wildly disproportionate punishment. Henry is locked inside a tunnel. The disturbing part is that all the island's citizens take part in sealing him in, shoving wagons to block the entrance, while the Fat Controller himself remains detached, overseeing the act like a tyrant. Fans have long interpreted the Fat Controller as an exploiter or even as a fascist dictator, forcing everyone to work under his command without ever questioning his authority. Even the umbrella someone is carrying for him in the scene has been read as a symbol of absolute power, as if it represents political control. What seems at first like a simple moral lesson turns into something far more cruel, because the story never suggests that Henry will be released. According to the fans of the series, Henry is left there forever, condemned under the orders of the Fat Controller. The Henry we see in later episodes is a replacement they made. Oldboy. What would happen if one day you went to a party without a care in the world, and when you returned home, you were kidnapped and taken to a room without anyone telling you who brought you there or when you would be released? This is the premise of Oldboy, where a man wakes up in a room without knowing who put him there. 15 years later, he is released and sets out to seek revenge. At a nearby restaurant, he meets Mido, a young woman who feels strangely familiar. She says he also seems familiar to her and decides to help him. Soon after, Dae-soo gets a call from his captor Woo-jin, who challenges him to find him. Over time, he notices that Mido chats online with someone who, upon seeing him, admits to being his kidnapper. This pushes Dae-soo to keep investigating. Following leads, he finds manager Park, tortures him for information, and after fighting off his guards, obtains a recording. A contact leads him directly to Woo-jin, who introduces himself and gives Dae-soo 5 days to uncover the truth, threatening to kill Mido if he fails. Digging into his past, Dae-soo learns that Woo-jin was his schoolmate and that Woo-jin's sister committed suicide after a rumor spread. He gradually recalls seeing them in an intimate situation and talking about it, which led to everyone discovering their incestuous relationship. When they meet again, Woo-jin reveals that, as revenge, he hypnotized Dae-soo and Mido so they would fall in love. Eventually, Dae-soo would have sex with Mido. Dae-soo then learns the devastating truth: Mido is his daughter. Unaware, she puts on a pair of wings, the same ones he had bought for her the day he was kidnapped. Crushed, Dae-soo begs Woo-jin not to tell her the truth and cuts out his own tongue as a sign of remorse. Woo-jin leaves and, recalling the moment he tried to stop his sister's suicide, realizes that even after getting his revenge, he won't be happy. He takes his own life. Seeking to forget, Dae-soo goes to the hypnotist to erase the memory, mentally splitting himself into two: one who knows the truth, and the beast who doesn't. In the snow, Mido approaches and tells him she loves him. He pretends to be happy in his ignorance, but his final expression twists into a grimace of pain that suggests otherwise. School Days is an anime that caused a lot of controversy a few years ago, not because of its theme, not because of its characters, but precisely because of its ending. This anime is based on a visual novel-style video game where the decisions you make actually matter. And even though the anime chose one specific ending, the reality is that the video game has more than one, and several of them are quite dark and end very, very badly. But speaking only of the anime, the story is about teenagers falling in love and all those cliché things, beginning with the protagonist Makoto, who falls in love with a shy, sweet girl named Kotonoha. This girl attends the same school as Makoto, and they both take the same train, but they are not in the same class. Secretly, Makoto takes a picture of her with his phone because, according to an urban legend, if you take a picture of the person you like and no one finds out, love will become real between the two people. The problem appears when a classmate of Makoto named Sakai sees the photo of Kotonoha on his phone. And against all odds, instead of exposing him or making fun of him, she offers to help him so that Kotonoha can get to know him and they can start a relationship. The problem is that everything gets derailed and ends in the worst possible way. Yes, Makoto and Kotonoha meet thanks to Sakai. Yes, after a few tries, they start a healthy and pure relationship. But the problem is that Sakai and Makoto begin to have sexual relations, according to Sakai, to train Makoto so that someday he can be with Kotonoha, since she was too shy and reserved and Makoto didn't want to rush her or anything. But, the miserable guy couldn't stay still and wanted to train at any cost. What begins as innocent teenage love becomes absolute depravity on Makoto's part, and once he experienced a woman's body, he couldn't stop or calm down. Something changed in him that day. Now he didn't just want Sakai, but all the girls and classmates he could find, and so he does. Meanwhile, Kotonoha becomes aware of everything. Makoto keeps drifting away from her and completely forgets about the photo and the legend. He even ends up putting her in an uncomfortable and humiliating situation, making her the laughingstock of everyone else. After several episodes filled with sad and disturbing events, we finally reach the climax of the story. Makoto realizes he has become disgusting and repulsive, and the girls he slept with no longer pay him attention. Sakai despises him because she found out he was with other girls besides her. And suddenly, the only light in his life is Kotonoha, who forgives all his disrespect, and they get back together at last. But that doesn't last long. Sakai tells Makoto she's pregnant. Of course, upon hearing this shocking news, the boy takes the easy way out and tells her to get an abortion, and that with Kotonoha's help, they'll give her everything she needs for the procedure. Sakai doesn't take this well, and decides to take matters into her own hands in the worst possible way. She arranges a meeting with Makoto, telling him she agrees to the conditions and that they'll meet at his house to discuss things. After a tense atmosphere and seeing Sakai quieter than usual, Makoto decides to serve her something to drink, until suddenly a message from Sakai appears on his phone saying goodbye. We then see a bloody scene where the girl stabbed the unfaithful boy in a frenzy, killing him. She flees and hides at her house. Kotonoha, shortly after, arrives at Makoto's house and sees the scene. And now the tables turn, because now she will take revenge. She sends a message to Sakai, and the two agree to meet at night. There, Kotonoha shows her a bag with Makoto's head, and then kills Sakai. And to finish the job, she opens her stomach to see if she was really pregnant, obviously in a state of total madness. In the final scene of the anime, we see Kotonoha on a sailboat at sunset, hugging Makoto's severed head, smiling, sailing off into the distance, to who knows where. Obviously, this is a terrible ending for the love triangle. Two end up dead, one with his head cut off, the other with her stomach cut open. But Kotonoha also ends badly. Her sanity is gone, and her fate is uncertain, but not good. Whatever the possibilities are, none of them are good. And let's remember, all this happened because of cheating. Yes, betrayal and disrespect are awful, but they don't justify ruining your life like what happened to these two girls, all over a guy who wasn't even worth a dime. But if we talk about the video game, which has over 20 endings, some good, some random, and others very bad, if Makoto doesn't die, then the girls die in different ways or kill each other, jumping onto train tracks, jumping from buildings, and many other disturbing scenes. Shadow of the Colossus is an action-adventure video game developed and published for PlayStation 2 in 2005. The story begins with Wander, a young man who rides into a forbidden land carrying the lifeless body of Mono, a girl he apparently loves deeply. No one has given him permission to enter there, but he doesn't care. His goal is clear: to bring her back to life at any cost. At the heart of this place lives an entity known as Dorman, a voice that echoes from atop a temple and offers him a deal. If Wander destroys the 16 colossi that roam these lands, Dorman can bring Mono back to life. And Wander accepts, without asking too many questions, without knowing who Dorman really is, and without thinking about the consequences. From that point on, all he does is ride alongside his horse, Agro, search for these colossal creatures, some peaceful, others aggressive, and kill them one by one, even though they don't attack him and even though they don't pose an immediate threat. As Wander defeats each Colossus, his body begins to deteriorate. His skin looks paler and his eyes darken. It's as if he no longer appears entirely human. And then we, as players, begin to wonder, are we really doing the right thing? After killing the last Colossus, Wander returns to the temple, but something is no longer right. His body collapses in front of the priests who arrive to stop him. Dorman completely takes over his body. Wander, the hero who sacrificed everything for love, is consumed by a demonic entity. He is no longer himself. He is a dark and massive creature. Dorman is reborn, using his body as a vessel. Finally, the priests manage to seal Dorman's body within the temple, and thus Wander disappears. Mono, the dead girl, finally wakes up, but she is alone. The price of her return was the destruction of the only one who truly loved her. She only finds Agro, the horse, who had fallen off a cliff and somehow survived. Together, they climb to the altar and find a baby with horns. She takes him and continues on her way, knowing nothing more, because that's where the game ends. Shadow of the Colossus deceives you. It makes you believe you're saving someone, but in reality, you're destroying a sacred balance, releasing a demon, and condemning yourself. The game doesn't reward you. It doesn't congratulate you. It just leaves you with an empty landscape, a ruined temple, and a life that returned, but without the one who brought it back. I played this game a couple of years ago, and I recommend this game to everyone. It is really worth it, even though you know how it ends. Creep is a 2014 American psychological horror film directed by Patrick Brice. It's part of the found footage genre, a genre that has gained much popularity over the years for the simple fact that it seems more real due to how it's filmed, making it feel more homemade and realistic, unlike bigger budget productions. The story begins with a guy named Aaron, who is a cameraman and accepts a job at a fairly remote cabin. His client is a man named Joseph, and upon arriving at the cabin, this man shows Aaron around and tells him a bit about what the job will involve. Basically, Joseph tells him that after many years of fighting cancer and overcoming it, he was once again diagnosed with a brain tumor, and there's possibly no hope for recovery. The doctors told him he only has a few months left to live. The worst part is that Joseph says he has a wife named Angela who is pregnant, and the reason he hired a cameraman is so that his son can see his father after he dies, even if it's just through videos, like a kind of farewell diary. Of course, Aaron, knowing all this, accepts the money and records Joseph for an entire day with the goal of capturing everything the man does on video. The problem is that Joseph behaves strangely throughout the day, like wearing a wolf mask, taking photos of Aaron from a distance, saying odd and bizarre things, etc. But things get worse when Joseph confesses that he abused his wife, which prompts Aaron to get scared and leave the house. It turns out Joseph lied about everything he said. He doesn't have a wife, she's not pregnant, and he doesn't even have that illness. And what he's doing with the filming makes no sense at all. Basically, he's a stalker who becomes obsessed with Aaron. After a fight in the cabin, the cameraman manages to escape. After that, we see that Aaron receives gifts, videos, and other things from Joseph at his house. Given all this, we would expect Aaron to report everything to the authorities and end the matter once and for all. But in reality, the opposite happens. In a final video Joseph sends Aaron as a goodbye, he says he's very sorry, that he knows his behavior is wrong, but that he feels very lonely, has no friends, and doesn't talk to his family, and says other similar things. Finally, he tells Aaron that he will wait for him by a lake to talk one last time and explain his behavior. Feeling pity for this man, Aaron decides to go to the lake and try to end things on good terms. The next morning, he arrives at the agreed location, leaves the camera recording inside his car, and we see Aaron walking closer to the lake and sitting on a bench to wait for Joseph. What Aaron didn't expect is that Joseph doesn't share his compassion, and through Aaron's camera, which continues recording the entire time, we see Joseph appear from behind wearing the wolf mask, pulling out an axe, and ending Aaron's life just like that. Next, we see a monologue from Joseph saying he doesn't understand how Aaron didn't turn around to see who was behind him, or maybe he did because he trusted a person who had been stalking him all this time. Because of Aaron's actions, Joseph loved him so much and said Aaron was his favorite victim among all the others. The film ends with Joseph talking to another guy, once again requesting a filming service for a day with him, while we see him storing a CD labeled Aaron next to many other CDs with different names. The most realistic ending in this video comes from Lisa the First. The game introduces us to Lisa, a girl confined to her room, neglected, with no toys or distractions. When she goes downstairs to the living room, she finds her father, Marty, an overweight man who spends all day in front of the TV, completely ignoring her, until she enters his line of sight. Then he orders her back to her room as if he can't stand to see her. Marty displays all the traits of an alcoholic and aggressive man, broken bottles and bloodstains scattered around the house. Lisa manages to slip out of his sight and briefly escape that environment, finding solace in nature. But the traumas her father inflicted never leave her. They haunt her in the form of memories, and just when she seems to break free, she encounters him again. He asks if she's trying to escape, reminding her that she can never get away from him, that it's pointless to try. Lisa wakes up in a strange room, like a void. These seem to represent moments from her life that she has repressed. In one memory, Lisa enters a clean, white room where Marty seems happy and acts like a loving father. However, as she passes between two statues, the scene turns red. The flowers morph into phallic symbols, watchful eyes appear, and Marty becomes completely deformed. She reaches a house where distorted versions of Marty mourn beside a cross, representing her mother's funeral and how he became a monster after her death. Soon after, a necklace teleports Lisa to her old home, where Marty is completely naked. She then returns to the void, and a voice tells her that her struggle to repress the memories is futile. She must accept what he did to her. The screen turns red. This clearly indicates that Lisa had suffered sexual abuse from her father. In the final scene, Lisa arrives at a white room decorated with images of Marty and encounters her mother, who apologizes for dying and leaving her alone. But as Lisa approaches, her mother turns around and reveals that she, too, has transformed into Marty. Even her most cherished memory has been corrupted. There is no place where Lisa can escape the memory of being abused.